Welcome to the Unapologetically Aligned Woman, a space where your darkness and shadows are not flaws to be fixed or healed away, but honored, decoded, and reclaimed as the truest expression of your soul's deepest power. I'm Tiffany Silvestri, and I'm so honored to walk with you through the messy, sacred terrain of shadow work, embodiment, and radical feminine reclamation. This podcast is for the woman who's done being digestible, the woman whose fire has been tamed, whose softness has been hardened, and whose body is quietly aching to be heard again. Within each episode, we are diving deep into where so many of our stories begin. Not into the darkness as punishment, but into the underworld as initiation. With the masks we are taught to wear and the armor we thought we had to earn, the survival archetype so many of us carry is the strong woman. Let's dive in. Welcome back, love. This is the Unapologetically Aligned Woman, and if you're here, you've already begun the descent. You've started peeling back the layers. You've looked into the mirror and whispered, I don't want to hold it all together anymore. Last week, we named the archetype of the strong woman, and this week, let's take it deeper. We descend into truth. Not the kind you speak to be liked, not the kind you post to look empowered, but the kind of truth that shakes you to your core. Most of us were taught that truth is supposed to be soft, easy, comfortable. But what if truth isn't nice? What if your truth is rage? What if your truth is, I'm done performing for love? I want more. I'm not who you think I am. Or I've outgrown this entire life. We were conditioned to believe that truth means obedience, that it's digestible, that it fits inside the roles that we've been handed. But that's not truth. That's survival. That's the script we were handed in exchange for belonging. And at some point, it stops working. Your body can't keep faking it. Your soul will start to rebel, and the descent begins. So here's something that no one's going to tell you. Truth doesn't always feel safe. It feels free. It feels like grief, like fire, like rupture, like falling out of everything you've ever built, because it was never built on you. Truth is messy. It doesn't care about being pretty, doesn't care if your voice shakes or your image cracks. It wants you raw, honest, exposed, and whole. And the first place you'll feel it is in your body. Truth doesn't live in your mind. It lives in your fascia, in your womb, in the tightness of your throat, in the ache that you've been ignoring. Truth lives in the place your nervous system clenches when you're pretending you're fine. When you start descending into truth, your body will become the oracle. She will tell you where you've been lying to yourself, what you actually want, and she'll hold you as you fall apart. So let's bring the descent into the language of the stars, because the parts of you that have struggled to speak your truth were written in your chart. The truth is not just emotional, it's energetic, ancestral, and cosmic. And astrology gives us a map to see where that truth got tangled and how to come back home to it. So first, let's look at Mercury, the planet of the messenger. It's also the conditioned voice. It shows you your mental truth, how you process, speak, and perceive reality. But Mercury can be conditioned, filtered through trauma, trying to make sense of what the body already knows. Mercury shows you how you communicate, think, and make sense of that way you're feeling. But Mercury also doesn't always tell the truth. Mercury can be shaped by fear, perfectionism, or just your upbringing. Let's say your Mercury's in Virgo, Libra, or Capricorn. You may have learned to edit your truth to make it perfect, palatable, and logical. If it's in a water sign like Cancer or Pisces, you might absorb so much of other people's energy that your own truth gets drowned out. Mercury shows the script you were taught to speak, but not necessarily what your soul came here to say. Your descent into truth will often require unlearning your Mercury conditioning so your voice can come from the body, not just your mind. Then we look at Neptune. Neptune is the fog of illusion. It reveals where truth gets blurred, where you lose yourself in that illusion, projection, or performance. If you've ever said, I don't know what's real anymore, that's Neptune for you, giving you a little bit of fog. Neptune is always known as the veil or the shapeshifter, the projection field. It shows where you may have lost yourself in someone else's version of you. This is the energy of, I've been pretending for so long, I forgot who I was. So, Neptune in the 7th or 10th house, you may have built your identity around what others expected. Maybe you have Neptune square Mercury or the Sun. You may doubt your own clarity, intuition, or memory. Neptune isn't here to confuse you. It's here to teach discernment. It asks you, can you hold your truth steady, even when it would be easier to disappear into theirs? The fog clears when you anchor into your own body. Truth comes into focus when you let go of trying to be liked and choose to be real. Then we have Chiron. This is the wound that holds your voice. It's the soul wound, the place you've felt silenced, shamed, or exposed. It's your truth as medicine. What you tried to hide is often the exact thing you're here to share. Your deepest pain is your soul's sacred story, not to exploit it, but to transmute it. Often, your truth was denied here. You were told, don't say that. Don't be so sensitive. Don't speak until you're sure it's right. If you have Chiron in the 3rd, the wound is in your communication itself. And a funny side story is that my son has Chiron in the 3rd house, and he has had a speech delay since he was very young. And luckily, we were able to get him into speech therapy almost immediately because I had a dear friend that was a speech therapist. But it's interesting to me now, knowing what I know, that with Chiron sitting in his 3rd, he literally could not be understood by anybody but myself. So when you look to these, it is true how it affects you, even at a very young age. So maybe you have Chiron in the 5th house. Your creativity and self-expression were shut down. Or Chiron in the 7th or 11th. Your truth was rejected by your peers, lovers, or your community. And again, a side story here is I have Chiron in the 7th house of Cancer. And I have been rejected by my mother, my mother-in-law, most women that I've ever come into contact with, because Cancer rules the feminine. It also rules the mother, being in the 7th house of relationships and partnerships. So it's, again, pretty fascinating how this can show up. And it also shows me the wound that I had with myself. And that's why I have started doing what I do today. But here's some gold for Chiron. Your Chiron is also your medicine, not because you overcame it, but because you chose to speak anyway, to feel anyway, to show up anyway. Your deepest pain often carries your most liberating truth. And next, let's look at Pluto and the North Node, the soul truth and your power of reclamation. Pluto's all things death and rebirth. The truth that scorches, that liberates through destruction. Where your Pluto sits in your chart is where you've been silenced, shamed, or disempowered. But it's also where your deepest authority lives. So let's say you have Pluto in your first house. You learn to control your identity to stay safe. Maybe Pluto in the 4th or 12th. Your family, ancestors, or subconscious taught you that power equals danger. And maybe let's say you have Pluto square the moon. Your emotions become a battleground for survival. And then we have the North Node. This is your soul's direction. The truth that your nervous system fears, but your soul craves. This is something you can relate to stepping out of your comfort zone. When you are in your comfort zone, you are playing with your South Node, which is not where we need to grow. When you are feeling uncomfortable in the direction you're moving in life, that is when you are headed towards your North Node. So together, Pluto and the North Node say, stop playing small for comfort. Stop clinging to the identity that kept you safe. You're going to have to let it all fall. The masks, the performance, the illusion, and the outdated story. Descent into truth is how you remember who the fuck you actually are. So that truth can finally rise. And astrology does not give you a pass. It gives you permission to stop performing, stop silencing, and remember. To say, of course I struggle with this, it's in my bones, but I came here to break the cycle. So we all manage to say the first part of that saying. We all say, it's in my genes, it's in my bones, it's just who I am. But guess what? Who we are now is not who we were meant to be. So you need to break that cycle. You're not meant to perfect your truth. You're meant to embody it. And your chart is that reclamation map back to the woman underneath everything that's been piled on top. And here's the truth that most people don't want you to hear. Living your truth will cost you something. It might cost you the identity that made you lovable, the relationship that relied on your silence, the version of you that everyone understood but no longer recognized. Truth is not just a revelation, it's a rupture. It shatters the performance. It pulls you out of the life you curated to survive, and it leaves you naked in the wilderness of who you actually are. That's why most people never go this far, because to live in truth, you must be willing to grieve the girl you were. The one who smiled when she wanted to scream, the one who shrunk to be chosen, or the one who built a life on keeping the peace. You can't rebirth if you're still busy protecting the performance. And your nervous system knows it. That tremble that you feel when you consider telling the truth, that lump in your throat, that fire in your chest, that shutdown that floods your system, that's not weakness. That's your body saying, we've never done this before, but we are so ready now. Let that somatic response be your compass, not your cage. Truth will dysregulate you before it liberates you, because your system was wired around the lies you needed to survive. But I'm going to give you some medicine here. When you allow the rupture, You create space. Space for breath, clarity, alignment, desire. You don't need to have it all figured out on the other side. You just need to let it fall. Grief is not regression. It's a sacred release. You may cry. And I tell you to cry. Let those damn tears fall. You might rage. I have. I've had some explosive moments on, unfortunately, some people that were very close to me. But unfortunately, because I held my truth back for so long, there was truly no other way for it to release. And you might also collapse. You might just be done and need space. That does not mean that you're broken. It means you're healing from all of the years you've silenced your truth in order to belong. And that grief, oh my gosh, is it holy? It's proof that something false is dying and something real is being born. Descent into truth will require you to rupture. But on the other side is your original wholeness. Not the version of you they taught you to be, but the version you remembered beneath the rubble. So grieve her, honor her, and then let her go. You can't be both truthful and performative. Choose your becoming. I want you to take a deep breath, love. Feel that truth swelling in your belly, your chest, your bones. And I want you to ask yourself, what truth have I been afraid to say out loud, even to myself? What identity do I fear will collapse if I speak what I really want? Let it move through your body. Let it be raw, and let it be yours. And if this episode stirred something in you, it's because there's a version of you waiting on the other side of your truth. You can book a natal chart reading to explore your Mercury, Neptune, Chiron, and Pluto, the parts of your chart that show you exactly where your truth is buried. Or grab my free shadow integration workbook that goes over the shadow of the strong woman. The journey through the protective patterns that once kept you safe, and the reclamation of the woman underneath. In next week's episode, we're going into what it really means to let it all fall away and rise from the wreckage whole. Until then, don't perform, don't polish, and do not pretend. Let your truth break the surface. It's been waiting for you.